Okay, so I'm going to now introduce our next speaker, Brian Siddle. Brian is Director of Community and Content at Strong Coffee Marketing. Strong Coffee is an agency providing services to a range of businesses in entertainment and tourism industries. That includes museums and theaters where ticket revenue is really key. So please join me in welcoming Brian Siddle to the stage for practical and creative ways to increase ticket revenue.
Thank you. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you very much. Let me just throw this down here like so. All right, ready to rock and roll. Good afternoon, everyone. As mentioned, my name is Brian. I'm from Strong Coffee Marketing. We're a digital marketing agency in beautiful Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And as mentioned, we specialize in tourism marketing, so theaters, museums, events, etc., something that we deal with on a regular basis. Good news for you, you're stuck with me for the next hour-ish, because I'm going to do another presentation in a little bit, so hope everything goes well. First thing we want to talk about today is driving ticket revenue, selling more tickets, and kind of coming up with some different ways to do such a thing. Some keys to success, things that we found out over time. What are some things we want to pay attention to when selling tickets? Understanding the consumer in their journey. That is a really big one that I'm going to touch on now and when I talk about social media later as well. Understanding who that person is that you're marketing to. If you can't figure out who you're trying to talk to in the first place, how on earth are you supposed to market to them? So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the ways we go and identify who it is that we want to talk about, some of the tools we use, and some of the things we found out along the way. Identifying consumer barriers is a really big one, and we base a lot of what we do at our agency on this. I think when you think of marketing, people get so focused on, let's talk about all the things that make our product or service really, really good. 100% agree with that. But at the same time, I think there isn't enough focus on, let's focus on not so much why we're really good at what we do. Let's focus on reasons that people don't buy our product or service. What are some barriers, whether they're actually true or they're misinformation, that actually prevent people from coming and buying with us, spending money on our products and services? I'm going to touch on that today. Managing misconceptions, so similar to the idea of the barriers, but a little bit different in that there might be some misinformation out there about your business. How can we kind of squash that misinformation to make sure that people get the real story and they come to us without too many pieces of misinformation in their heads? Watching trends and finding winners, I'm going to touch on that a little bit too. And educating consumers and staff, a great example here earlier, and I appreciate the blame marketing thing because it seems to be my life some days, but definitely the staff can be your best consumer or your best advocates, and then those consumers that are touched by those staff members that are educated, they can become advocates, and away we go. Now, before we get started, I went and built this presentation last week. I was all excited. I got all the stuff I wanted in and not too many slides, and I got my staff to run through it, and one of them came up and said, "Hey, Brian, good information, but there's no pictures." I said, well, I don't care about pictures. I know some people are visual learners and they need pictures. So I will warn you right now, there are no pictures in my presentation, except for that one right there. That is a picture of a horse. It has absolutely nothing to do with what I'm going to talk about. But I don't want anybody to say afterwards, hey, that bald guy kind of knew what he was talking about, except I'm a visual learner and he didn't have any pictures. There's your picture. So it's a picture of a horse. Enjoy. Take it all in. It's running in a field so gracefully and elegant. So the way I want to kind of handle this is we're a data-driven agency. And I'm sure you hear that all the time. Oh, we build everything we do on data, and it sounds kind of boring because you got to pay attention to analytics, etc. And analytics are part of the data that we look at. So website analytics, like Google Analytics, for example, Facebook analytics, Twitter, anywhere else on social media. Our advertising analytics are obviously a really big deal too. But the analytics that I really like, the ones that I really like to focus on, come from consumer reviews. These are pieces of data that people have actually gone out and taken the time to write about, and then they go and they put them online, or maybe they send it to you in a letter, as we touched on earlier as well. But this data, this information is the stuff I really love because people just let you know what they think, good and bad. So As I go through and illustrate some of the points, all these things that I've pulled in italics here, these are actual reviews that I pulled from various organizations in the room. I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to say, this is from this place. Let's all have a good laugh at this. Not all the reviews are bad either, but I wanted to kind of show that if I can find these reviews online, everybody else can too. There's no secrets when it comes to locating reviews on TripAdvisor. It's pretty easy to do. So let's take a look at this first one. I felt they completely ripped me off. I had to pay extra for tickets because their system wouldn't let me get a discounted combo ticket. Then this person basically goes on and talks about all the ways, this is only part of the review, all the different ways that they couldn't get tickets. And then when I went here, then they said I can refund your ticket, but then I had to go buy tickets over here, and it was just like, oh, yo, 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 there's a lot going on here. What this whole kind of thing gets at when we talk about increasing revenue through tickets is understanding that consumer journey. I think my mic is bubbling a bit here. I'm going to move it down here if it's all right. Understanding the consumer journey. So how did consumer A go through the process and end up buying a ticket? If we understand that journey, we can go and look at the journey ourselves and go, okay, what part is good? What part needs a little bit of work? So if I understand the process that somebody goes through, it makes it easier to refine the process or ultimately blow the process up or keep the process the same. So who is your customer and what makes them tick? Now, there's probably all sorts of different audience groups that we think of when it comes to who we market our business to. I'd anticipate families are a big one in this room. I would say young professionals, perhaps couples without kids that want to go out and have a good time and go to a museum and watch a film on a giant screen. That's probably a group. I'd imagine maybe folks where empty nesters where their kids have already left. That's probably a group too, and there's all sorts of people in between. So we need to identify who those groups are, and from that, figure out what makes them tick. And this will kind of be something that will go through the entire process, and I'm going to talk a lot about this both in this one and in the social media presentation as well. So if we can figure out what kind of key points make them tick, it's a little bit easier to start to figure out how to market to them. So families, for example, I know I'm a father of 3 kids. What makes me tick and my wife tick in terms of should we take the kids to a museum, for example, might be simple things like, can we take a stroller to the museum? Is there kid-friendly food available? Because my kids only eat pasta and hot dogs and pizza and candy. So do they have that available for me? That big thing. They're trying new things, but it's not working. It always goes back to pasta, penne pasta with butter and cheese, basically. So for me, that makes me tick. For other people in other groups, maybe it's the idea of doing something or seeing something cool that they can brag to their friends about. Maybe that's what makes them tick. We need to figure out what makes all these people tick so we can make sure we're putting our marketing in the right sort of package to make sure they see that and go, hey, this is something that's actually kind of cool. Minimize the number of hoops that someone has to jump through, both online and offline. So the example going back to this person that had all sorts of issues trying to buy tickets online, we're obviously doing something wrong here. The system isn't working. This person couldn't buy tickets. They still came, which is incredible. After all that, I think they had to come to get their refund, and then they're like, well, we might as well stay. We're here. But that person jumped through so many hoops, bless that person's heart, and they actually came, whereas a lot of people would look at things, whether it be online or there's a lineup at the front door of your establishment and go, nope, not for me. Too many hoops to jump through. Grow your repeat customer base. When we talk about that consumer journey, I think if we're looking at building new business, we immediately think of let's go bring in more people. True, but at the same time, you probably have a really big group of people that have bought tickets previously and would probably buy tickets again, and we don't need to go through and convert them all over again because they already had a good experience. Perhaps they're part of an e-news list, and MailChimp was brought up just before. We use MailChimp in our agency, and MailChimp is really cool because as we send out e-newsletters, we can actually look at who opened them. And if we can figure out who opened them, we can start grouping those people in different ways. So let's say I've created an email list from my consumer management database, and I say, I'm going to send an email specifically to anybody that has bought tickets at 3 of the last 5 films. If I can figure that out, maybe they're members, so I've got them inside the membership database. So these people clearly like what I'm doing when it comes to films. I'm going to send them a specific e-news, and I send them a specific e-news, and I say, hey, we've got a new film coming. We want to give you a sneak peek before anybody else sees it. So maybe we do some sort of night before type of thing where anybody that got that e-news, come on back and check out this film. And what I'm going to do is if you bring a friend, they'll get in for this reduced rate of X number of dollars. So now I'm appealing to the people that are already my consumers and my hardcore consumers, and I'm telling them to bring a friend. That's a great way to start to kind of increase the sphere of influence we have over those people that already like what we're doing without spending a whole lot of money. So it's definitely something to think about is we want to increase ticket revenue. Don't simply rely on going and getting new people. Figure out who your evangelists are already and make sure that we're doing the most to make sure they spend every single time or most of the time and they tell their friends about it too. So an action item here, this would be a simple one. Look at how you sell tickets, whether it be online or in person. Walk through that process. And don't walk through that process once and go, yep, everything's fine, everything works. Walk through it on a regular basis. The very first client that our agency had, she was a photographer. And she was really, really good at what she did, and she wanted us to run some ads and help her out. She built her own website, and she came to us and said, I need to run ads to my website to sell photography packages. Cool, let's do it. So away we go, we start running ads. She gives us a call a few weeks in. I haven't had anybody convert yet. No one's bought. And I was like, that's kind of weird, because our ads are pretty good. Let's try to figure this out. I said, well, go into your shopping cart and figure out if people are dropping off throughout the process. She went into her shopping cart and promptly realized that it was broken, and actually we'd been sending a lot of good leads her way, but because that path to conversion was broken, she wasn't getting any sales. So don't fall in that same trap. Make sure you test that process over and over and over again. Action item number 2, create a plan to increase repeat business. I already touched on that a little bit, but go through, if you've got some sort of database or even talking to staff, go, who are our big 20, our big 50, our big 100? Who are these people that come on a regular basis to see our films, who we know would appreciate some sort of little gesture to make sure they come back over and over again and tell their friends? Figure out who those people are and then figure out a way to market to them. E-newsletters are one of the best bets there, and I know somebody will be speaking a little bit later on about e-newsletters. I would highly recommend that you look at your e-newsletters and segment those out into these people have never bought a ticket, these people buy tickets all the time, these people just signed up for the e-news and don't really know what's going on with our establishment, and let's send out different e-newsletters to people instead of one over and over again. And the question here when we talk about consumer journey is simple. Can Rick buy a ticket from your website on his phone? And you're like, I don't know who Rick is. Rick's my dad. My dad's 70. My dad only got a smartphone like 3 years ago, but he's kind of savvy on it, which is a little bit strange. He emails me all the time and asks me questions. Rick lives in Phoenix in the winters, and he loves going to theater, he loves going to museums, he loves doing all that kind of stuff because he's retired, and he doesn't have anything to do from 6 a.m. when he wakes up till 4 p.m. when he goes to bed, so he finds things to do with my mom. So one of those things he loves doing is going out and checking out museums and theaters, and then when we come down, he gives us the lay of the land and says, you have to go here, here, and here. But think about that. Think about if Rick is in your target demographic or one of your target groups, and he's 70 years old, he does most of his browsing on a mobile device, can he buy a ticket from you? Now maybe you say, well, we're not set up for tickets online. Okay, cool, but are we still making it really easy for Rick to buy a ticket if he comes down here? And if the answer is no, you've got a lot of looking around to try to figure out exactly what it is that we're doing wrong. Just because you can buy a ticket or you understand the buying process doesn't mean everybody else does. Next set of reviews. Love the Science Center so much, except when we want to eat lunch there. I don't know what in uppercase the problem is, but Subway and the line, and there's 30 to 40 minutes for Subway, and you can read the rest. And we went on a Wednesday, and we were surprised that it was a free day for seniors. Hey, cool. And basically what this person says is, but if I would have known that it was such a cool museum, I wouldn't have balked at the price in the first time, and I probably would have come earlier. Okay, so there's a couple different things going on here that kind of revolve around the idea of consumer barriers. So what were some of the consumer barriers we saw in the reviews right here? The top person, one of the barriers here is, I want to bring my kids and I want to spend the day and I want to watch a film and I want to go to the movie, but you know what? I don't want to sit around for 40 minutes while my kids are hungry and try to get food. There's a big red flag there, a big barrier. I know for me, when I go somewhere with my kids, we basically have to time it between meals. I'm either going to do the 9 to noon thing or I'm going to do the 1 to 4 thing. So for some places, if you've got a museum and a film and we start looking, all in, we might be 5 hours for a family to go through and do everything. You're not lining up with my meals too well. So that's cool, but you need to make sure that one of the barriers for me not deciding to come is not the fact that you have no good food service and I'm going to have to leave or I'm going to have starving kids, and starving kids are horrible, and I hope I never have to deal with starving kids, and they're so angry, and it's just not a good situation. Second consumer barrier for the person down below revolves more around price and more about value. They went and saw it on a free day and they said, this place is so awesome, and why did I not come here before? Why was I even concerned about that price ahead of time? So the idea there, the barrier simply is price. Now, when we talk about price, and we deal with this all the time in a marketing agency environment, the simple thing that our clients want to do is, we've had a lot of people talk about it's too expensive to buy our product, we're going to cut it in half, we're going to cut the price in half. That's not necessarily the best way to overcome that price barrier. The best way, in my opinion, is to make it a value thing. People are okay paying a price if they see a lot of value out of what they're getting. If it's simply you pay this and you get this, people might have a hard time with that if that price doesn't match up their idea of a good time or an outing with their family. But if we can pull some value into it, hey, this is our price, but it includes basically everything. It includes admission to the museum, it includes a film, maybe even something like it includes $10 or $20 food voucher to our restaurant here, or if you don't have a restaurant on site, the restaurant across the parking lot. All of a sudden, I look at the price as a dad and go, you know what? I can just pay this price and I'm basically good for the afternoon, including something to eat. That's value in my books, as opposed to pay this and then it's like the kids are hungry and now we got to find a restaurant. They've bundled that up really nice for me. I really appreciate that, and I don't mind paying a premium because it's like, I pay this, I get this, everyone is happy, including my wife, including my kids. So an action item here, identify audience groups and create packages and promotion to meet their needs. So I touched on food and beverage already. Let's figure out why somebody isn't coming, and if it has something to do with other additional services, etc., let's create little packages so the film is part of it, but you get a little bit something else on the side as well. That's what people really like. We do a lot of work in tourism, and the one thing that works every single time, and we can sell all day long, are good packages and good promotions. Packages especially. The problem is not everybody can create a good package, and they put together a couple things, and then we look at it and we go, there's no value there. What's this package all about? Hotels are one of the worst for it, where their package is really like, okay, so you get a room, a color TV, a hair dryer, and free parking. That's the value package. It's like, no, that's staying at a hotel. That's not a value package. We see it all the time, and it's like, no, you got to put something together. Make it a day. Make it an experience. Action item number 2, show value over discounts. Show value as opposed to cutting your price, because if you cut your price and all of a sudden you're sitting down here, there's an expectation about what people expect when they come to your product or to take on in the museum and the film. If they think it's a low-priced adventure, they're going to go in with a different mindset, and that could change things down the road when you decide to up your price to make a little bit more money as well. And the big question here, think about your own venue. How hard is it right now for somebody like me with 3 kids to make a day of it? Like, sure, I could go there for a few hours and quickly run around the museum, catch a film, and be home in time for dinner. But what if I just wanted to show up at noon and I wanted to stay till 5 or 6? How hard is it for a family to come to wherever you work right now and make that day of it? And if you can figure out ways to make sure a family, for example, can make a day of it, families are going to be a little bit more in tune to what you're offering, whether it be a product or a promotion. Maybe think of it as a young couple that want to go out on a date night. How hard is it for somebody to come and have a complete date night there? Maybe you are working with businesses outside of your realm right now, and you say, if we could package up this with this with this, there's a nice little date night and we're part of it. So some things to think about there when we talk about consumer barriers. This type of review I saw so much when I was doing these reviews. We used to come here all the time when the kids were small. A great place to take the kids, but adults will get bored. The place is filled with kids and it can be loud. Well, the last one sounds like my dad, because he just it's so loud, it's so busy, you never go there. It's like, Dad, there's like 20 people here and only half of them have kids. It's really not that loud. Managing misconceptions. So if you were to come across a museum or a theater and you saw these things and you were looking and you're like, is this a good place for myself and my girlfriend or my wife to go? There's a lot of misconceptions right there that this is a place only for kids and it's really loud and busy. I'm not going to go there. Well, how does the public view you? Well, how the public views you is whatever content is put out there before them. One of the big elements to this is reviews. So people are going to read reviews and they're going to make judgments about your business. True or false, they're going to make judgments about what they read. So think for a minute, think to when you meet people when they come into your business and you're talking with them or your staff is talking with them. Think of some of the things that they say and go, hey, you know what, that's not completely accurate. Why do they keep saying that we never come here on a weekend because we hear it's so busy, whereas you actually look and go, it's not terribly busy on a weekend. Where's this misinformation coming from? Once you start to figure out these points of misinformation, you can go to this website. It's not all that new. It's been around a while. And what it is, it's a big search box. And you put stuff in it and you search, and it gives you all sorts of results. It's called Google. Go there and go start searching some of those misconceptions with your business name attached to it. See what people are saying and where they're saying it. Now we've got our points of pain, our misinformation that's out there. Now we have to go, okay, here's what people are thinking. Here's the information that's causing them to think that. Then we need to go into our own little marketing and communications meeting and go, here's the deal. People think that we're overpriced. People think that it's super busy on Saturday afternoons. People think this, people think this. Let's create content, advertising, perhaps even a bit of a campaign to change that misinformation. To say, you know, if one of the big things, and I saw this a couple times, people said, I really like coming here, but there's no parking. Well, I find it hard to believe there's absolutely no parking anywhere because that doesn't seem like a good business model to begin with. It's like, hey, look at this great piece of land over here, zero parking. It's like, let's put up a museum here because that's what's going to work. There's probably parking at every one of your facilities, I would assume. But if people are under the impression that there's no parking anywhere at this place, if I read that, I'm like, well, why on earth would I take my kids to a place with no parking? Now, I might be smart enough to go, well, there's probably parking. I'll just look at a map. But a lot of people are like, nope, there's no parking there. I'm not going. Okay, so if that's one of your misconceptions, get the content out there. Get the ads out there. You know, let people know where there is parking available. Come to the museum. There's parking over here. We'll validate your ticket afterwards. You know, I come from Edmonton. We opened a brand new state-of-the-art arena in downtown Edmonton last year where the Edmonton Oilers play, and our office is actually really close to it. And one of the big misconceptions about the arena when it was built was zero parking, no parking whatsoever. And the city had to come out and basically create a campaign saying, there's X number of spots within a 15-minute walk of the arena, and they had to list them all and say, this is where they are, this is how you get there, this is how much it costs, because they didn't want misinformation to sink the whole ship. So, are you a viable film option? This is something else that might be a little bit interesting, and this is the question that I pose down below as well. So, think of your museum, your place of employment, as a larger part or a part of the larger community. And when somebody is sitting there in their homes thinking, I want to go watch a film, I'm not terribly concerned if it's a brand new movie that just came out, I want a theater experience. Where do you fall on the list of theater experiences? Some people might view you as, oh, that's the museum. They've got a screen, but that's the museum. There are going to be other people that go, actually, that's a theater. There's a theater inside that with a huge screen, bigger than my house, and an amazing sound system, and theater seating, etc. But think about the public opinion and that misinformation that might be out there that you've got a theater, but you're not really a theater. You're just part of a museum. Action item number 1, review your public touch points to ensure the right message is being presented. Go find that misinformation and figure out a way to stomp it out, basically. Action item number 2, educate the misinformed through content and advertising. Do we need to do a campaign specific to parking, specific to date nights, specific to young professionals can come here in the evenings, etc.? What do we need to do with that content and advertising? Find those touch points and then combat it with good content and good advertising. And a question, I'm in a little bit of a unique situation at our agency. Most of the people that work at our agency aren't from Edmonton. They've been in Edmonton for a couple of years. They've come from all around the world, and for some reason they work with us and at our agency. So it's a really good opportunity to bounce ideas off of them. There you get the people like some of our partners like myself. We grew up in Edmonton. We know everything about Edmonton. But let's talk to these folks that maybe don't have all the information. And one of the things I asked them was, hey, if you wanted to go and see a film, just a theater experience, just a cool experience to go watch something, we won't talk about topics, but where would you go? And I asked them to list the places that they would go. Very, very few of them actually said our local science center, which as far as I'm concerned, is one of the finest attractions in all of Edmonton, the TELUS World of Science. But it's not because they don't like the TELUS World of Science, they just don't think of it as a theater too. They think of it as the place where I can go learn about science and have fun with kids. They don't necessarily think about, oh, you know what, it's got a gigantic screen and a planetarium, which they're redoing right now. It's an awesome experience, but they just don't know. So what can you do to make sure they know, and when they want to go out for a night on the town with their families, this is maybe somewhere they would even consider going. Next one I want to talk about here, this is a review that I saw. The toughest decision is whether to get an annual membership. It sucks waiting in line with the regular people. I don't even know what that, I don't know if you've got like a regular person line and then everybody else, but the annual membership is $69, which gets you into 4 blockbusters a year, not bad for 13 a pop, plus unlimited documentaries. That sounds like a heck of a deal. I do put in a little side note at the bottom. I went on to see if this package is actually available at this place anymore, and it's not. They have something similar. But that's a good deal. If I saw that review, I would say, holy, so 69 bucks, I get this. You want to see value? There's value right there. Okay, cool. So that person's genuinely excited about this. Okay, so one thing we need to do if we want to sell more tickets, we need to watch the trends and find the winners. That's a winner right there. Somebody sees that and they go, there's a lot of perceived value right there. For $69, I get all this. That's a good deal. That's a winner in my books. So if I had this package currently running and this membership currently running, I would want to tell the world about how a great deal it is. This is an amazing deal. This would be in the forefront of some of the campaigns I ran. You know, we've got testimonials from people on TripAdvisor and Yelp talking about how amazing this deal is. Is there a way we can work those in too? That's an amazing deal. So the part of the talk I want to have here is talking about adapting to change. It's not easy for businesses to adapt to change and adapt to what consumers want. Some people really struggle with that. Previous to working in digital, I actually worked in the golf business. And the golf business really takes a long time to adapt to change, and they still are kind of getting there, but not really. And markets and people in general are kind of pushing the game aside because it's like, I can't spend 5 hours to golf. I have so many other things to do. I want to spend my money elsewhere. It'll be those golf courses that decide to adapt to the changing marketplace that'll do really, really well in years to come. Think of that same thing with your museum and your theater. What are some different things that I see on that landscape, and how can I adapt and change my marketing offerings to those people to make sure I'm always top of mind when they're looking for something to do or some entertainment for their family? If something is working, embrace it. If I was running the marketing team and I saw this review, and there were a few of them like this, I would say, heck yeah, that's awesome. I'm going to put this on the front page of my website. I'm going to run with this in campaigns. I don't want to bury it on my website where it takes 3 clicks for somebody to find it. I don't want it to be the hidden gem of my museum. I want it to be front and center. Another huge one that I saw that was working was the idea of couples coming to a museum and watching a film in the evenings, and there was drinks and appetizers, etc. There were a number of places that the bulk of their good reviews, and there were a ton of reviews, came from, my girlfriend and I came here on a Wednesday evening. We had an awesome time. We had a drink and some appetizers, and we watched a film. If I saw that over and over and over and over and over again on my reviews, I would tell the world that we've got this amazing package going on Wednesday nights. I might even add another night too because it's going so well. Make your winners easily accessible. So anytime you see something that's really, really working, get it out on social media. Put it in your advertising. Put it in offline communications. Maybe you add a PR component to it and you let the media know that we've got a really cool thing going on and it's being really successful and we want to tell even more people about it. So an action item here, review your product offerings and identify your winners and your losers. There might be other things. You might be pushing this package or this experience so hard and no one wants it. No one cares. No one wants it. Oftentimes it comes from like somebody up above you that's like, this is a great package. We're going to push this thing. And it's like, no one's buying it, but okay. Whatever you, and if it doesn't work, we just blame marketing, which is really, really simple. So identify those winners and losers. Run with the winners, get rid of the losers, but still don't be afraid to adapt and bring new things into the mix and see how it works. Ask people for their feedback. Ask staff, hey, we've got that new promotion running. Have you had many people come in for it? What are people saying about it? What can we do to maybe change it up a little bit to better fit the needs of our audience? Action item number 2, make it dead simple for somebody to purchase a winner. How many clicks does it take for me to go from uninformed guy coming to your website to somebody actually purchasing a package or tickets, etc.? If it's beyond 2 clicks, you need to reevaluate what you're doing. Make it dead simple for somebody to go through a website and purchase. If you don't sell it on a website, completely fine. Make it dead simple for somebody, here's the phone number in 40-point font in my header, phone here, and you can have a ticket. Oh, so if I phone that number, I can get a ticket. Cool, I'm going to do that. Make it dead simple for people to actually experience what you have to experience. If you make it hard for somebody to experience it, especially your winners, you're really, really missing out. And a question, can I buy a ticket now and use it in the future? Something that my staff actually brought up was the idea of if I'm there with my family and I can't watch the movie right now, but I get a discounted ticket because I'm buying an admission to the museum, can I come back at a different time and use the ticket? That's adapting to the market, adapting to the fact that people seem to have no free time whatsoever. They still want to see the film, they just can't see it right now. Can I buy my ticket right now and give you money right now and come back at a later date? That might be something to consider. Last one. Everyone here knows what they're doing, from the ticket sellers to the concession staff to the ticket takers at entry. That's a good review. And by the way, I pointed out some of the bad reviews. I would say on average, when I looked at reviews, I was looking at 4.5 out of 5 stars overall for anybody I looked at. I find the same thing working with museum clients as well. People really like the experience in theaters. They like that. They appreciate it. So here's a positive one, basically talking about staff education. Educating the consumers and staff. People gravitate to the things they know. Informed staff will lead to informed customers. And don't be afraid to over-inform. I used to work in retail. I worked in the golf industry selling golf clubs. If you don't know what you're doing selling golf clubs, you'll never really be good at it because there's a lot of like scientific jargon. Truthfully, most of it is made up by golf club companies. But that's just what it is, and then they recycle it over and over again. But the more I knew and the more educated I was for golf equipment, the better off I became and the better salesperson I was. So some action items here. Create policies to make sure everybody working here has seen the film. Not just the people working at the front desk, the people that serve food in the cafeteria, the people over here that are cleaning staff. Because you know what? All those people will get questions asked of them, not just the people at the front desk. So create policies that everybody sees it. Create a little primer where people can look at it and get a one-page information sheet on what's going on at the theater, what movie's going on, etc. Answer frequently asked questions everywhere and often on social media, etc. Help to educate those people. The question, is your current feature too scary for my 6-year-old? If you can't answer that question and people in your museum and theater can't answer that question, why on earth would I buy a ticket? If you can't give me an answer, why am I going to buy a ticket? So lots of things to think about. Like I mentioned, I'm going to come back in a little bit and talk about social as well. So here's my information for right now, and we'll get on, and I will see you again very shortly.